You know, you have two big books when they don't stand correctly behind your phone so that you can film your videos. First world problems. Hello beautiful bookworms, my name is Katarina and welcome to my channel. So today I'll be doing the second 7 days of top 7, and if you don't know what that is, I will leave a link down below the playlist that I will be making with all of the videos that I will try to post this week. I hope that you guys enjoy all of the themes. I hope that you join us for the rest of the week, and I will leave G's video announcing this and explaining the topics and such, so that if you have any doubts, I don't need to be repeating it again, and you can go and just check it out, and she explains way better than me. So, without further ado, let's just enter in the second day of 7 days of top 5-7. So for the second day, the topic is thought-provoking books, and I put up a list of books that made me think about different things in different times and different places and different stuff. So they provoked thoughts on me in a different way, each and every one of them. Some of them are thrillers, some of them are romances, well, not romances, but novels, okay? Others are manga and stuff like that, and I will try to explain a little bit of why each one is thought-provoking in my opinion, but I will try and make the synopsis short because my first video just went forever and I don't want the same to happen to the other ones. So, let's get started. So the first book that I'm going to present for this top 7 is Gentlemen and Players by Joanne Harris, and you may know Joanne Harris as a writer of romances like Chocolate and Oranges, whatever, and other romances like that. Chocolate is actually a famous movie with Johnny Depp, so probably you've seen it or not, I don't know. Is it Johnny Depp? I think it's Johnny Depp, I don't remember. Whatever. Moving forward, Gentlemen and Players is completely different from the novels that she normally writes. This is kind of like a mystery novel in which you're following the perception of two people, and you're following a past perception and a present perception. So at the same time you're getting flashbacks of something that happened that you know it's going to go horribly wrong because it is said so in the beginning, and then you're receiving the perception of something in the present that's clearly escalating towards a climax that it won't be very positive to one of the characters. So the idea is that you figure out who your narrator is between the people that are presented to you in the present, but you only get the backstory of your narrator. And then you're supposed to find out what is the problem that he has with the other main character that his point of view is written in here. And it's very interesting because it kind of gets on your nerve, because you know that something's going to happen, you don't know why, and when it gets to the cliffhanger, to like the plot twist of the thing, it's just so amazing and it just completely grips you, and I just loved this book. I reread it like 3 or 4 times. It's really short, it's very amazing, and it's very thought-provoking in this way because you have to be always thinking of what is going on in front of you with minimal clues that are given to you. The next book that I'm going to show you is by Dan Brown, and it is Inferno. And if you don't know Dan Brown, he's the writer of the Da Vinci Code, and if that helps, yeah, that's him. So basically, Inferno is about Robert Langdon, who is obviously the main character that Dan Brown pretty much always writes about. And I've read pretty much all of Dan Brown's books. I think the one I haven't read yet is called Conspiracy, and I think it was the 3rd book, but the rest of them I read them all, and this one is my favorite of them all because it has a very thought-provoking plot. And if you don't want spoilers for this book, just until I put this down, just mute the video or something. So, going through why I think that this is thought-provoking is because the main premise of this book is about this virus that supposedly, when put into motion, will possibly make most of the people in the planet to be sterile. So they can't give birth, they can't conceive, and it's basically the ethicals of this, like how would you feel if the right to give birth was taken away from you, and you couldn't have children. And then it talks about the massive population that the world is experiencing, the way that we are destroying nature, and that the supposed solution would be that actually people were exposed to the virus, and if you could still have children, good for you, but if you couldn't, it will be okay for the planet as well. And I think it's very interesting that this problematic was being bring forth, because obviously it's something that we fight against, because the planet is getting massive populated and we don't know how this is going to turn out, but it's something that we have to think if it's ethical to prohibit people of having children, and a lot of books deal with that topic actually, or if you should just deal with the consequences that arise and forget of the planet and just procreate and something like that. So it's actually pretty interesting. I really enjoyed it, and it's very thought-provoking in that way. And obviously you have the thrillerish part of all of Dan Brown's books, in which you have to help your main character just understanding what is going on and decipher riddles and just going against the clock to figure out who the villain is and where he's going to release the virus, and it's very interesting in that way. Another book that I have to show you is The Solitude of the Prime Numbers by Paula Giordano. And this is basically a novel, and this is about two kids. One of them is a girl called Alice, and one of them is a boy called Mattia. And both of them, in different ways, have kind of a tragic backside story. And I can tell you this because this isn't in the back of the book. But basically, Alice has some parent issues. She has anorexia. And she basically broke a leg, and she never recovered as she should. So she limps, she has all of her problems with her body. And Mattia had a disabled sister, a mentally ill sister, that he abandoned when he was really little so he could go to his friend's birthday party, and he never found her again, and you never know if she died or not. So he starts self-harming, and obviously trigger warnings for everything that I said, and this is not a spoiler because you know this in the first 2 chapters of the book, and this is where the book goes forth. So they meet, and what you are seeing here is not a book that makes love makes problems go away. That's not the type of book that this is. They meet, and it's not because of that they get better. They never get better, but they start to deal with things differently together because they're just so alone in the whole entire world, and the fact that they can meet someone that feels something that they know what it is, like the same pain in a way, it's really beautiful and very thought-provoking in a way that everybody feels alone and everybody feels pains that other people don't know anything about. And the fact that you can meet someone to talk about those stuff, for me this book is very inspiring. For me it's beautiful, and I think more people should read it and should appreciate it for what it is. It's a masterpiece, and it's really thought-provoking and amazing. Another one of the books that I feel are very thought-provoking is one of my favorite books of all time, and that is Kafka on the Shore by Haruki Murakami. Haruki Murakami is my favorite writer, as I've said numerous times on my channel, and this is my favorite book by him by far. And I can't say a lot about this story because this being magical realism and this being kind of a little bit complicated to explain, you would be spoiled probably for everything, so I'm just going to say that this focuses around 2 main characters. One of them is a young man that, to try and ditch a prophecy, just runs away from home, and he speaks with a raven. And the other one is about a very elderly man that never recovered from an accident that he had in his childhood, and then that can speak with cats and is dedicated his life to search for missing cats, and the story goes from there. And it's just very beautiful. It's kind of an epic sort of journey in a way. It kind of criticizes society also and makes you think about some of the problematics of our society in our days, and it's just very beautiful, very poetic in a way, although it is obviously not written in poetry, but is really amazing. I love this book so much, and I do recommend it if you like thought-provoking books, if you like staying on a page and just thinking about what you just read and reading a giant metaphor for life and what it means, you should probably pick Murakami up. The next one that I'm going to show you is a recent read, and I haven't had time to do a review, so I probably wouldn't link it down below, but I will see what I can do. But it is a manga, and it's called The Gods Lie, and it is by Kaori Ozaki. And this is a standalone manga, which is not very common, but it happens, and I recommend everyone that can to pick this up, because obviously this has a lot of trigger warnings for abuse and childhood situations that are not very good, abandonment, but it also deals with first love, with emotions, with support, with being there for each other and all of that thing. It kind of has a character that I do believe it has OCD, although it is not completely explained in the book, and he's just called weird in a way, because I don't really believe that the person that calls him that has the age enough to know that he is a sick person. But all of that, it doesn't compare to the experience that is reading this book. And this is basically the book about these two characters. They are called Natsuro and Suzumura. And basically what happens is that Natsuro decides that he's going to ditch football camp, and he spends the entire summer vacation with Suzumura and her little brother. I was going to say sister. There's a problem with my English today. But this is a very, very interesting story. It's very beautiful. I actually cried while reading it because it's very emotional and very thought-provoking. I'm going to read you something from this that is not a spoiler, but it refers to the title, The God's Lie, and I think this is what represents the thoughts that the book will create for you. So I'm just gonna read it for you. This book has to do, as I said, with emotions and with the way we relate to other people. And in here it says, the gods lie. It's because they love you very much. The gods lie. They lie because it's the best they can do. We reach out for their lies, and we keep on leaving. And that for me represents everything that this manga is. And I do recommend, it's really small, I do recommend that you pick this up and that you just get lost a little, some 2 hours in this, just so that you can feel it and think about this sort of topics. So the next book that I'm going to show to you is The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson, and this is the last book in the Mistborn trilogy, the first one, and I just have to say that this book was amazing. It wasn't one of the fantasies that provoked more thoughts on me than any other that I have ever read. It has some considerations about religion that I thought were really profound and really developed and really thought of by the author, so it led me to some thinking, and the ending was just amazing to no end. And obviously this is some sort of different type of thinking than I did with some of the other books that I showed you, but I also think it's very important because when you're part of a society you have to reflect on everything that's part of it, and religion is a big part of our society, and some terrible things are done in the name of religion and other stuff, and I think that this trilogy talks about it really well, what it is to have faith, what it is a religion, and what it means to be a god or not to be a god, and it's so very interesting, and it was very thought-provoking in a way, and I think that everyone should pick this up if you like fantasy, because you would have a ride that you can't even imagine, and the conclusions that you'll reach will be amazing. Obviously, I'm not going to talk a lot about this because this is the end of the first Mistborn trilogy, so do yourself a favor and pick this up. You will love this. This is about, our main character is called Vin. She's a girl that starts to develop some powers where she ingests metals, and she has different kinds of powers, so she's called a Mistborn. And it's really interesting because she's trying to defeat the government of the place where she lives, and it's very, very interesting. I think you should go and just read this. And the last one for this top 7, finally, you should say, is Death Note. And Death Note is, everybody knows Death Note, but if you don't know Death Note, this is a story about Light Yagami. He's a high school student that ends up picking up a notebook that a Shinigami, or a death god, let fall on Earth. And basically, when you write the name of someone in that notebook, that person dies. So he decides to start to apply what he thinks is justice and decides to write off some criminals off the society and off the world. And so because of that, the question in here is, what is good? What is evil? What can you actually do if you have the power to do something, and what you should do? And if you're not as bad as the others that you're trying to erase, if you do that. And I think this is very important. This is very thought-provoking. Not only you're thinking of ways that he can just save himself from this situation and try not to be caught by the police and everybody. But also you have to think about the ethical questions that this manga raises. And I think that this is a very important one. I'm very happy that pretty much everyone that I know from my generation knows this, because this is a very compelling story. Not at all like the freaking Netflix movie that has no ethical problems whatsoever with anything. But the original material is just beautiful and everyone should read it, because it can start interesting conversations about what you think is right or wrong and what are morals about everything in the world. So that is it for my 7 days of top 7 day 2. This is getting very weird to say. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, leave a like or subscribe and tell me in the comments down below books that you think were thought-provoking. So I hope that you continue with me on this journey for the rest of the week, and happy readings to you all. Bye!